What's up, and welcome to episode 123 of Throwback Hoops. My name is Rob Clayton, and joining me is my brother from another mother, Woody V. What's happening, bro?
Robbie, my man, how you doing, brother? I bet you were happy to see me attend my first NBL1 game this recent weekend.
Yes, I was very pleased you came out. You got to spend some time with my family and stuff, which was great. I know you'll be back this week, so looking forward to talk about that. Wearing a beanie for maybe the first time on the Throwback Hoops podcast.
Definitely
I'm liking that.
time.
It is quite cold in Sydney, so I'm kind of, as soon as I finish this, I'll be chucking a jumper and some tracky pants on probably. But well, before we get into it, Woods, just a reminder for everyone, please make sure you like, rate and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So, look, got a pretty exciting show this week. We want to recap the NBA Finals. At the time of recording, it's Wednesday, the 19th of June. So the NBA season officially finished yesterday, which is always kind of that little bit of a sad time. But, we've got the draft to come and free agency and stuff like that. But before we get into this week's show, of course, we're going to start with jerseys, Woods. Another week where we're both wearing Hawks jerseys. That's pretty cool. So why don't you show us the one you're rocking today?
Just stand up.
The Woods are standing up wearing the very nice-looking City Edition Atlanta Hawks Patty Mills jersey. I like that one, Woods. Probably regretting I didn't get a Patty Mills jersey. Bit of a story with this one, right? I know you wanted to take this one for our overseas trip, and it took forever to arrive.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned it in the past. I wanted to take it with me to Atlanta and wear it at one of the games we went to on our US trip. There was an issue with the delivery from the NBA store. It got lost in translation somewhere in the UK, and it unfortunately didn't arrive in time. But happy I've got it, and as you said, not many people will have a Patty Mills Atlanta jersey. Maybe I'll throw it to you quickly. With Patty Mills, a good thing there was for him reuniting with DeJounte Murray. With someone like him and DeJounte being great teammates in San Antonio early on in life. It was nice for them to come back and reunite. But in terms of his playing time and the impact that he had on the Atlanta Hawks, you thought that he'd have a bit more of a role to play, didn't you?
Yeah, look, I was a bit unsure when they first signed him there, and I think the writing was on the wall when Trey was out and he still wasn't getting minutes, and that sort of led to him getting effectively waived, and then Miami picked him up, and he was okay with Miami, and then he kind of dropped out of the rotation there as well. So I think he will always probably get a job, just given how great a teammate he is. He's a mentor now, obviously a proven veteran and a proven winner. Look, I think I've maybe mentioned before as well, Woods, his defense is not great these days. So I don't know that his fit with Atlanta was great, playing behind probably a non-defending point guard or, a little guard in Trey as well. So, look, I hope there's still a place for him. I hope he's still got, another maybe 1 or 2 more years. He seemed to fit in pretty well in Miami. They seem to be pretty appreciative of the way he played there. So, look, it was disappointing we didn't get to see him though, right?
Yeah, very disappointing. Just missed him, actually. Now, what kind of impact do you expect Paddy to have at the Olympics later this year?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm pretty sure he'll start. I know some people might not be loving that idea, but I still think, Fever Paddy is a real thing. I think he knows this offense so well. Brian Goorjian, coaches him very well as well. So I think he'll probably start. Hopefully Giddey can step up and have a pretty good tournament as well, and they can sort of play that little bit of a combo with the ball handling guards there with a short sort of shooting guard, a good shooter guard, I should say, in Patty Mills, and then obviously a taller sort of maybe non-shooting. That's probably a little bit harsh in Josh Giddey there, but I think those two can probably combine together pretty well. So I hope he has a big role. Actually starting to get really excited for the Olympics, Woods. I think it's less than 2 months away now, isn't it? So, looking forward for that all to kick in. What are your thoughts the same? Or?
Yeah, I think he will start. So let me throw it to you then. If you've got Patty Mills and Josh Giddey starting, who's joining him in that starting lineup?
Well, definitely Landale. So Landale's a lock, I'd say. I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Green starts. Yep. I think coming off a really good season, he was pretty good in that final series that we'll talk about, and just a great defender, like a really good defender that can hit the outside shot. I think we are lacking in shooting. So that probably leaves one more position there. And that would probably be like another big as well. Look, I think I've mentioned before as well, can they start Duop and Jock Landale together? I know some people may not think that's the case. I think they can coexist, those two. They're both like big guys that can shoot, they can protect the rim, they're good rebounders. So maybe I'd go with that starting five. Maybe I'd go with Paddy, Josh Giddey, Josh Green, Duop, and Jock Landale.
Nice. Okay, I like it. Yep.
Nice. You got any difference to that starting five? Or?
No, I'm just trying to think what else. I mean, you got Matisse, Xavier Cooks.
Yeah.
Could you potentially put Xavier Cooks starting at the 4, right? A little bit more versatility there with him, able to put the ball on the floor and create for others, right? Potentially.
Yeah, but he can't shoot. Like,
that's true. That's true.
So that's why I like the duo up in Jock Landale, especially in that international game. We've got not necessarily when we say shooting, we're talking about 3-point shooting, but just the ability to hit like a stretch, a long 2 from the top of the key and those sort of things, and sort of open up the keyway for guys like Paddy and Josh Giddey to get to the basket. So not sure that Cooks does that, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And they've got to start, maybe culling some more players from that squad as well soon. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up with the team. So nice one. No, I like that jersey. Good stuff. Loving the beanie as well. I'm liking the new look. So look, I'm rocking a Hawks jersey as well. It was only fitting I wore this one today, so I know you don't know who it is yet, but you'll probably know pretty soon.
Yep. For those who can't see, Robbie's wearing the Atlanta number 15 Al Horford jersey. Of course he is. Of course. I should have known, man, after winning a championship.
Yeah, 100%. I was thrilled to see him. He was that main one I was sort of watching when they did wrap it up yesterday when he left the court, the crowd reaction and stuff. And yeah, look, it's amazing to see Horford. Always been one of my favourites. Look, he left the Hawks maybe not in the greatest circumstances. He was a free agent and went to Boston for his first stint there. I know there was a few little comments he made at the time that some Hawks fans got a bit annoyed about, but look, you can forget those sort of things. So, look, just a little bit about Big Al. So I'm rocking the blue Atlanta Hawks Adidas jersey. So that was conveniently in the cupboard next to me, Woods. As you know, I put all those Adidas jerseys in alphabetical and team order. So it was easy, like Atlanta, Horford, for Joe Johnson. Right, grab that out. So that was pretty easy grabbing that one. So he was drafted out of Florida at pick 3 in the 2007 draft by the Mighty Hawks. And he's absolutely still going strong with stints in Atlanta, Boston, Philadelphia, which maybe wasn't his greatest sort of period there, OKC, and then, of course, back to Boston. And you can tell me what you think your thoughts are on this comment, Woods, but I think Horford's had an absolute sure Hall of Fame career.
100%.
So accolades including a 5-time All-Star, an All-NBA third team, an All-NBA defensive team. He was runner-up in Rookie of the Year and made the All-Rookie team. This is probably the one that will definitely get him over the line, though. 2-time college champ when he won those chips with Florida, playing with guys like Noah and Corey Brewer and those sort of guys. And he's now an NBA champ. So I know I heard a few people saying, oh, look, he's only had one All-NBA team. That was the third team. Will that hold him back? I think when the longevity, those accolades I mentioned, the college stuff, the NBA stuff, I think he'll get in there.
Absolutely.
One thing I noticed today from doing a bit of research, Woods, this shows how the game has changed. His first 5 seasons with Atlanta, Al Horford made 3 3-pointers.
He didn't attempt many either. I've seen that.
Didn't either. No, 3 3-pointers. And he's a really good shooter now. He can really knock him down from those corners. Always been a great defender, but he's a very smart player, isn't he? He can screen and roll well. He can switch on to smaller players and make life tough for him. Just really like the way he plays. He's earned $270 million as well, Wood. So it's been a pretty fruitful career for him. And of course, the son of a former NBA player in Tito Horford. So it's funny. I always remember that name just because Tito's not the sort of name you see. So I remember him from those 2000s teams. I think he was with Milwaukee and Washington, maybe off the top of my head, so didn't quite have the career. And I remember Al Horford's brother, John Horford, was a part of I think he played a good 4 years at Michigan in the early 2010s, never quite made it to the association there. So, look, absolutely thrilled for Horford to get that chip. He was the second longest amount of games played without winning a championship after that great bloke, Karl Malone. So I'm glad he's off that list now. We'll leave Karl Malone, the great bloke of the years, on that list. So, yeah, really pleased for Horford. 38 years of age, Woods. Firstly, what's your thoughts on Big Al, and do you think he can keep playing for a few more years?
I think just a poor guy, man. He's earned, a couple of $100 million a year, married to Miss Universe or whatever, 2-time NCAA champion, 1-time NBA champion. He's had a pretty good life, but more than anything else, he's a great leader,
Yeah.
Someone who sets a good example for the youngsters, the other guys in the locker room. And he's just a true professional. He comes to work every day, sets high standards for himself and others, and leads by example. So,
he's ageless as well, right? His appearance hasn't changed seriously for about the last 10 years. So
and I saw an interview with him afterwards as well, right? And he said, "Look, I'm back next year, right? I think he's got a couple of good years left in him. Will he be remembered more as a Celtic or as a Hawk? That's a really good question.
I think probably the Celtics now. I think
Yeah.
sometimes that's the most recent memory, and the fact that it's been 2 stints there. I mean, obviously the Hawks. He had some great times. I mentioned those All-Star games. He was a part of that Hawks whole starting five that basically got named Player of the Month at one time, which was amazing. And then 4 of those guys made the All-Star game, including guys like Jeff Teague and Kyle Korver, who probably it's still a bit of a shock that those 2 guys have got All-Star games on their resume. But no, great sort of team player, and he's really sort of got the best out of his career and extended his career, I think, with this ability to now hit that 3-point shot. He's always had a funny looking shot, hasn't he? But look at, like, you always expect it to go in when he launches it.
Yep.
Nice. So, all right, well, shout out to Al there. So, appreciate that, Woods. At least we didn't do any matching jerseys this week, but good to see us rocking our Hawks there as well. So, well, look, as I mentioned, it's the day after the NBA season's finished. So, let's chop it up a little bit and talk about the NBA finals. Firstly, congratulations to the Celtics. Winning their 18th championship. They're now standing alone there with the most championships there, which I'm sure some Lakers fans will hate there. Look, on last week's show, we covered the first 2 games. So what I thought we'd do is maybe just do a quick debrief of games 3 to 5 there, Wood. So maybe I'll take us away with game 3. So that was last Thursday, our time. So Boston ran out 106 to 99-point winners in that. It was an interesting game. Boston were in control. This was obviously in Dallas. Then Dallas made a big run in the fourth quarter. I think at one stage it was a 20-2 run, and they looked like they were going to maybe get there. Unfortunately, this is a game that Luka fouled out and basically became the topic of discussion on a lot of podcasts. Like Brian Windhorst and the Hoop Collective and those sort of things. He absolutely unloaded on Luka after this game, Wood. So, and look, I was a bit unhappy watching it as well because my motto: if you make a mistake or something else like that, you'd be the first one down the other end. He was missing shots, laying on the floor, complaining at refs. There was at least 3 times in that game where they ran down 5-on-4, found the open man, whether it was Sam Hauser, whoever it was, and they knocked down a shot. So as much as he got his points in 29 in that game, 27, sorry, he actually really let the team down. And I think he actually took some of that stuff to heart because you saw him working a lot harder. Still got a lot to improve on his game, Luka. I don't necessarily think he's a bad defender, Woods. I think he's a lazy defender. And I think you can't do that in the NBA, right? You can't just hide him on the opposition's, because you can try and put him on guys like Sam Hauser, and Sam Hauser will get, 10 points in a game and change the outcome of the game. So, look, amazing player, and I think he'll continue to sort of grow and hopefully improve those things. But that was big in that game, I thought. So that obviously gave Boston the 3-0 lead. In that game there, it was the Tatum and Brown show, Tatum 31 and Brown 30. So that made it 3-0, and I think a lot of people thought that it would finish last Saturday. I think probably you and I included, right? I think we thought, the NBA season's over. I'll throw it to you, though. I know you followed that game 4 pretty closely. Firstly, what the hell happened? Dallas won 122 to 84, a 38-point win. So talk to me about that one.
They were up by They were up by more than that for a while, right? I think it went up to 48. Yeah, you're right. Look, I think that. Look, I changed my prediction to Celtics to win in 5. I just thought that one of the 2 games in Dallas. Dallas would be able to take one at home, right? I think it's just a bit of fatigue there. Boston have lost, 3 games all playoffs, I think, including that one, right?
Yep.
So I just think it was just a case of a bit of fatigue. Dallas didn't want to go home with egg on their face with a 4-0 result. And you saw the role players really step up at home. Derek Lively had a double-double in that game, 11 and 12 from memory. Dante Exum stepped up. He had 10, I think, that game as well. And then you saw Tim Hardaway come on in garbage time and just nail 5 threes and then not play in game 5 at all.
So what does it go with that? I know this is a minor thing. Let's talk about Tim Hardaway Jr. Wood. So he's someone that I like. He's a former Hawk, son of a gun there sort of thing. How has he suddenly become not playable? Then he can come on and in garbage time, albeit, get those points and not play again. What's the story with Tim Hardaway Jr.?
Well, he was the 3rd highest scorer on that Dallas team during the regular season, right? So obviously he did contribute. Early in the playoffs, he was unplayable. He was really struggling to make his shot. He's a liability on the defensive end. Jason Kidd just thought, look, I want to shorten my rotation in these playoffs. I want to go with guys like Hardy and, Green and Exum occasionally, right? Those guys as well. And he just doesn't fit into my thinking. But I agree with you, man. Like, especially when there's, struggling to find that third guy in some games, right?
Have you heard Tim Hardaway Sr. come out, Woods, and said that basically it's not a good fit with his son playing alongside Luka. Those two shouldn't coexist in that. So it's almost trying to get him out of that situation. So I'm sure we'll see him on a different lineup next year. But that's fair. It's probably maybe those players don't click. But anyway, that's probably a little bit too much on Tim Hardaway Jr.
Going back to that game, right? I just think it was just a case of Boston A little bit of fatigue there. Dallas got one. Boston looking forward to obviously going back home to the Garden to try and close out the series on their home floor, which in essence that they did, right?
I think you and I maybe spoke before that game, Woods, last week, and I think I gave my opinion. I think you agreed anyway. I said, look, I reckon in this game 4, either Dallas is just going to get a close win and win, or Boston's going to blow it out. And then to watch that last week, I was so excited and sat down. I'm like, this is just ridiculous. Like, you're right, 48 points. At one stage, it was looking like the biggest, finals margin of all time. So just a crazy result there. I think just one that, Boston just had to throw that one out sort of thing. And that probably leads us to game 5, Woods. Again, like, it wasn't an amazing game in terms of a spectacle there. Boston were up 10 at quarter time. They were up 20 at half time. Ended up running out 18-point winners. So the second half was pretty even. But, I mean, that pretty much the fourth quarter. Strangely, Boston kept a lot of their starters on, but it was just a lot of garbage guys on. I think I mentioned Charlie Villanueva's lookalike came on for Boston. All these sort of guys that Dwight Powell. They actually found that he was still sitting on the bench and he actually got on. So look, it was a fitting win, I think, for Boston. They were led in that game by Tatum, 31. It's some really good passing. Jaylen Brown got 21. Luka had 28, so he put up some decent numbers. Kyrie 15, and Josh Green was probably their second best player, I'd say, in that game with 14 points. So maybe I'll ask you what your thoughts on Boston were. Do you think it's a bit of a some people are saying it's maybe a top 5 greatest season by any team. They won 64 games of the season. I think their average margin of victory was 11 points in the regular season, 8 in the playoffs. And then they lost 3 games in the playoffs, as you said before. But do you think they'll go down as a historic team?
I mean, historically, they're one of the, if not the most efficient offense in NBA history, right? 64 regular season game wins, and obviously cleaning out the playoffs with only 3 losses. But this series is this year is going to be forgotten. I feel in the annals of history, right? Just a bit of a boring playoffs. Yeah, nothing too much happening. You remember the shot, the Ray Allen shot. You remember various different moments in NBA playoff history. I think this one could potentially just get swept under the rug a little bit, right?
Are you telling me you're not going to remember Peyton Pritchard hitting 2 half-court heaves? Yeah.
I probably will, right? But at the same point, Boston worked really hard to get to this point, right? As I said, 2 of the last 3 years in the finals, 6 out of the last 8 years in the conference finals. And Jason Tatum made a point here. We've failed so many times. We've been through so many trials and tribulations. To lose to Golden State a couple of years ago, to lose to Miami, right, last year in that series, it really taught us. It also taught me that I don't have to do it all the time, right? I can be a basketball player, make decisions that are going to make my teammates better. And we saw that in Jason Tatum's game. Obviously, Jaylen Brown winning MVP. Well deserved, but Jason Tatum was very selfless and said, look, if they're going to send a couple of guys my way, I'm going to find my teammates. I'm going to become more of a distributor. I'm going to become one of the best rebounders on my team, right? And he stepped up in other areas.
I didn't know that he had this passing in him, did you? He sort of showed that throughout the playoffs. I think that's something, part of his game he's improved. Look, you mentioned the finals MVP. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I know I wouldn't say it's been controversial, but it was very even. I think it was 7-6 or something like that in terms of Jaylen Brown winning it. If I was a voter, I would have actually voted for Tatum. I've sort of looked through all the game stats. I think Tatum maybe slightly deserved it. I think Brown's percentages dropped off. He probably started better in the finals. Tatum maybe finished better. For me, part of I was like, maybe it was fair that Brown got the Eastern Conference MVP, maybe Tatum got the Finals MVP. Doesn't matter at the end of the day. Obviously we know that Steph Curry didn't win it for that year with Golden State when Iggy got it, and he sort of got over that. But did you think there's any controversy, or it was a bit of a coin toss?
I think Brown deserved it. You look at the job that he did on Luka as well. That last game, just non-stop. The whole game, just staying with him and fighting He did a great job defensively. Certain things that didn't show up on the stat sheet, his ability to guard on that end and really sealed that MVP award for him. But as you said, no one would have argued if Justin Tatum had been awarded that award.
It was really
Jason Tatum.
It was really close, wasn't it? And look, I think full credit to Jaylen Brown as well. He got paid in the off season and then still managed to really work on his game. We see that opposite sometimes. Players get paid, they get a bit lazy and everything like that. He was the opposite. We know Tatum's going to get paid this off season as well. So that brings us maybe to the future of the Celtics. Woods. I've already seen that they're favourites for next year. So that'll be the last 2 years plus next year. They've been the absolute title favourites. Firstly, do you think they can keep this team together? And if they do, do you think this team could be a little bit of a mini dynasty coming up?
Definitely think so, right? A guy like Drew Holiday, Al Horford, money doesn't really matter to them anymore. They just want to stay in a winning culture.
Yeah.
I don't see them going anywhere, and they'll hopefully work out a favorable. I'm not sure if they're both under contract or what their situation is, but I'm sure they'll come up with something favorable to help the team. Then Derek White, that's the one guy. He's still under contract for one more year, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is still under contract. Yeah, and I think it's not too bad a contract. You've got to bring him back. I mean, he's probably the one guy that we haven't mentioned, right? I felt sorry for him. We know he's certainly not the most handsome player in the NBA, and then he had 2 teeth knocked out. So
yeah, I know, man.
I felt sorry for the man with that. But geez, he was huge, wasn't he, in that final series?
I don't think he minded. With the result,
didn't care at all, did he? Yeah. No, and that was that was sort of the start of Brad Stevens in the front office, making moves like that, and probably a lot of credit goes to him. Obviously,
yes,
Funky Joe Mazzulla will get the credit for being the coach on that championship team, but Brad Stevens stepped into that front office role, and he was the one responsible for getting Al Horford back, for drafting Peyton Pritchard, for getting Drew Holiday over there, for doing a lot of these moves like that, and I think it's really come up well there. So I think full credit's got to go to him.
No, you hit the nail right on the head, right? Brad Stevens, parting ways with Marcus Smart, parting ways with Malcolm Brogdon, Time Lord. Marcus Smart mostly, but the other 2 guys as well were a big part of the culture over the last...
Marcus Smart was huge. I mean, people were fuming that they got rid of him, weren't they? And, it ended up meaning they brought in Drew Holiday, who's just a much better all-round player, both ends of the court, I believe. So, yeah.
Brad Stevens saw that foresight to bring, to make those changes. Difficult conversations for him to have. He was saying that yesterday in the press conference, for him to actually pick up the phone and have to call, Brogdon and Time Lord, and also most importantly Marcus Smart, wouldn't have been easy for him. But he said, this is what we need to do. We've been there and thereabouts for the last 7-8 years. What do we need to do to get us over the line? And he was able to do that. And Joe Mazzulla, 35 years of age. Drew Holiday and Al Horford are older than him, right?
He had a torn meniscus apparently the whole final series, and he's going for surgery in the next couple of days once his partying stops down, I think. Yeah. So that was interesting. What about some of these bench guys? Look, obviously we haven't even mentioned Porzingis. He was a factor in the first few games and not so much after that due to his injuries. But what about some guys like Sam Hauser and those sort of guys? I thought their bench stepped up. It's such a good starting 5. You're not going to get a whole heap of points off that bench, but I think they all come in and fill their role, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. A guy like Xavier Tillman, Luke Cornett, different guys at different times when their number have been called have stepped up. I think Sam Hauser hitting those half-court shots, right?
Peyton Pritchard.
Peyton Pritchard, sorry. Yeah. Peyton Pritchard hitting those half-court shots. He's basically come on for 2 or 3 seconds, right? He's basically not playing the next game. Yeah. How many? I think is that 3 for Pritchard in this playoffs.
I think it might be. I think he hit one in an earlier series and then 2 in the final. Yeah. So pretty amazing. He actually ended up getting a few points in some of those games. So he's someone that I think is an important player. I know he was a bit unhappy with his minutes earlier this year. Brad Stevens said to him, "Look, we love the role that we really, you're an important part of this team," and kept the faith. And he sort of stayed ready, which I think a lot of those guys have done there. So. Before we go on to Dallas, was any sort of closing thoughts on Boston? Any other closing thoughts about the finals, apart from it maybe not being the best final series that we've seen?
Well deserved. Boston were far and away the best team throughout the regular season and the playoffs. So rightful victors. Yeah. And
does this make that game that we saw in Atlanta a couple of months ago with DeJounte Murray hitting a buzzer beater over the Celtics even more special for us? So knowing that we saw our Hawks beat the NBA champions of the season, it was one of their 19 losses for the whole year that we saw on a buzzer beater in overtime. So that's pretty cool. I'll always
very cool.
So nice. Well, let's talk a little bit about Dallas, right? So, as we've done with the playoffs when a team's got knocked out, or, we've sort of talked a little bit about what's next for them. To me, I think it was a very successful season. They didn't make the playoffs last year. Kyrie and Luka really showed that they could coexist in that team. They made some, pretty decent deadline deals, getting, guys like Gafford, getting PJ Washington. I think Derek Lively was a revelation. I think he really fit in well. I think he's got a very bright future. Thought the Aussies were both good as well. Exum was definitely better than what people thought. The amount of people I heard, like Dante Exum, he couldn't shoot like this when he was last in the NBA. So he showed, those stints in Europe, how much he's improved. And that could be important for the Boomers, because if we've got a weakness, it's our shooting. So Dante, and maybe Dante could start Woods.
Exactly.
He could, couldn't he? Yeah, he could. Yeah. So, look, I think the future's pretty bright for them. How do you sort of read their season? Obviously, they lost 4-1. It's not a great way to go. But what was your sort of take?
Definitely. I mean, if you talked about the first round when they met the Clippers, you wouldn't say for sure they were going to win that series. Second round versus the OKC Thunder, you wouldn't have said that they were definitely going to win that series.
Yeah.
Third round versus Timberwolves, you definitely didn't think that they were going to win that series, and they fought all the way, right? This also goes to the front office there in Dallas, man, folks making those changes, bringing in PJ Washington, bringing in Daniel Gafford just after the All-Star break, gave a complete different dimension to this team, right? And you got to say the job that Jason Kidd did, was terrific. Luka's a very similar sort of player to Jason Kidd, a slightly bigger guard, great vision, so he's been good, I think, in the development of Luka over the last year. You've said it in the past. Who's their third guy? Is it PJ Washington?
That's a big one, isn't it? Yeah.
I think if they want to go to the next level and challenge the likes of Boston, right, they probably need that one extra piece here.
Agreed.
Obviously, Derek Lively will develop more next year, and they'll be right there in the hunt next year, I think, as well. Again,
I mean, you need that third score at least. I don't think in those 5 finals games they had anyone apart from their big two score more than like 16 in a game or something. Maybe even 15 by Josh Green yesterday might have been the third most. So yeah, you need someone that can take the slack off them. I don't know who that is. They might be able to, say they get rid of Hardaway and maybe make a couple of other little moves there. They might be able to bring someone in that could sort of fit in there. So I heard a couple of trade rumours the other day. Well, I think they were more just rumours that fans made up sort of thing. But one of them was Atlanta and Dallas making a trade that was ending up with Josh Green going to Atlanta, and I think DeAndre Hunter going back to Dallas. So I don't know. It seems Hawks are in a lot of rumours at the moment. But yeah, I think you're right. They need to make that third trade there. Am I being harsh on Luka with some of the stuff I've said to you either on the podcast or offline sort of thing? I thought he was like so poor in that game 3 with him not getting back, with him complaining, with him fouling out. I think it's got to the stage now. We know even from playing in our local comps, Woods, if you continually berate the refs and just piss them off, if it's a 50-50 call, you are not getting that call. And refs are human beings, right? They're not going to put up with someone complaining about every call all game. So have I been harsh? Is there some truth in it? What's your thoughts?
I don't think you've been harsh, and we need to go back to what we spoke about Al Horford earlier, right? A true professional gets on with it, sets a good example for these youngsters that look after him, look up to him. A whole nation looks up to someone like Luka, right? And he would do well to look at someone like Al Horford about how to conduct himself, on and off the court, and even off the court the other day when he was having a beer on the screen in front of the camera, and Michael Finley grabbed the beer off him. It's still Michael Finley saying this is a bad look, It's not something you should do on camera, right? So it's on and off the floor. He needs to learn to conduct himself slightly better. Defensively, he needs to be engaged in terms of basketball. He needs to be engaged for him. He's not a terrible defender. He needs to be engaged. So. To your point, I don't think you're being too harsh at all. And he needs to have a good look in the mirror about how he conducts himself, right?
Sure. And look, I think once the emotion of going and losing in the finals sort of dies down over the next few days, they can be really proud about how the season's gone. They made it to the NBA finals. They won a game in the NBA finals. The West is very tough. Do you think it would have been a different story? I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, if only Denver made that final series, it would have been a lot better. I've been a little bit critical of Denver's bench. I think their bench was awful sort of thing. But do you think there would have been much of a difference if Denver had made it, or Boston just would have run over them as well?
I think Boston would have won. Maybe it would have stretched to 6 games, right? There's different dimensions there, different matchups, right? Are always different. I still think Boston would have won in 6 or 7.
Yeah. No, good call. All right. Well, yeah. Sad day when the NBA season's finished. I believe our work productivity is probably going to, both go up a lot over the next few months. Although, we're looking forward to the draft next week. It's a big thing for us, obviously, with being such passionate Hawks fans. The Hawks have got the number 1 pick. For me, there's a chance that they could draft, former Perth Wildcat in Alex Sarr there. So we're going to talk a lot about the draft on next week's episode. We're going to talk about, some of the next stars from the NBL and, how they may sort of end up in the draft, and talk about, some of the top picks and maybe what some of these teams at the top of the draft need. So looking forward to kick that with you next week, Woods. But we thought we'd maybe talk a little bit of NBL now. And I know this news happened a couple of weeks ago. We've obviously had a lot to talk about with the playoffs, and we've had a few guests on. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the New Zealand Breakers today, Wood. So last week we focused on some some import signings. But big news, obviously, a couple of weeks ago that coach Mody Maor has left New Zealand to accept a 2-year deal to be head coach of the Nagasaki Velka in Japan. I know you're a big fan of Maor. You've sort of talked about him in the past. I think it was a bit of a surprise for us, but yeah, give us your take on that news there.
Look, really happy for him. He came in here, as you'll recall, as Dan Shamir's understudy when Shamir took over in New Zealand, and we all thought of him as this animated, loud, quirky guy on the sideline. Who was he? We didn't think he'd actually step step up and be the head coach of the Breakers, but he learned under the tutelage of Shamir, and he's done such a great job. He's a disciplinarian, right? And having guys like Bolden come to New Zealand, a big part of that would have been having a coach like Mody Maor there to guide some of these guys that have been signed.
Well, not just Bolden Woods. There was a number of free agent signings, plus the law firm coming back as well. That all came to that team or came back to that team fully expecting Maor to be the coach. So how do you think those guys are sort of feeling now?
Yeah, it'll be tough, but this is a business and sometimes things happen, right? They've got a contract, they've got a job for next year.
Yeah.
New Zealand have made some really positive strides over the last few years. So I think bringing in a new coach that works and gels with those players is going to be imperative. And then these guys have got to get on with it, right? And Mody's found an opportunity that's going to be good for him and his family. And you can't argue with him for taking on that opportunity.
This Japanese league is still something I'm trying to come to grips with, Woods. We hear about it all the time. Like, what is this Japanese league? Is this like telecast anywhere? Like, is there any... What is the go? So how is all this money being paid there? Because we've seen so many quality NBL, imports and other players that have sort of gone over to that league. We've seen a few coaches go over there now. It's strange to me. Look, there must be a way that you can tune in, because I wouldn't mind sort of seeing some of these guys, household names that we had in the NBL that are playing over there now.
What's the rule? What's the rule? Why don't they televise outside of Japan? I've heard this before.
It's strange, isn't it? Yeah. And there's rumours that a lot of those teams in Japan have the same accountants as the Sydney Kings, which is, why they can sort of sign some of these coaches and players. But in all seriousness, though, I'd be interested to sort of see what the league looks like, sort of thing. It feels like it's like a hidden type thing, right? You keep hearing, another player's gone there, another player's gone there. And we've lost a few, players from the NBL that we'd probably both like to see over there. So a little bit strange. Guys like Nick Kay, there's a rumour every year that Nick Kay will come back to the Wildcats. Well, of course he's not, because he's going to stay in Japan and earn mega bucks there, which an NBL team can't compete with there. So it's a strange one, isn't it? So maybe we can try and find out if there's any way that we can actually watch some of these games.
I've heard it somewhere. There's some sort of legal thing where they can't stream it without you can't watch it without a VPN outside of Japan. Like, I'm not sure why. Yeah.
Interesting. So, look, we thought that was sort of, pretty big news. And, well, obviously they've still got to name this coach there. We've heard guys like, Parker Jackson Cartwright come out and say, look, he's committed to the team. It doesn't matter who's coaching there. But, look, I'm sure it would have been a bit of a shock. They had, quite a few signings in the off season that fully expected Maor to be the coach, and now it's not going to be the case. So interesting. Well, we'll continue to keep everyone updated with the NBL news. We're not far away from the season now. Sort of thinking about it today. That's the next thing to get excited about, and I'm looking forward to do our annual previews that we do every year. Woods. Sure. That's always fun. You put together those amazing slides, and we sort of make probably some bad predictions like we always do there. Look, before we sort of get into a little bit of classic packs, you mentioned briefly at the start the NBL1. So you made your appearance. I did say on last week's show that I was a little bit disappointed because the Hornets are playing Sutherland and didn't think that Lauren Nicholson was going to be playing. Well, she played, Woods. So I got the scoop from that early in the week, direct from Loz there, and was so excited about it. 44 points in a big win by Sutherland. How good was Lauren Nicholson in that game?
He was ridiculous, yeah. And I mean, the Hills girls played with some heart,
Absolutely.
Definitely against a team that was obviously a lot better than them on paper, but the kind of fight they showed was extremely, it was heartwarming to see.
And I recommend people sort of check out that box score, even some highlights. Firstly, you'll hear some great commentary on the highlights there. But Lauren Nicholson was named NBL1 East Player of the Week. 44 points. I think she maybe had 6 assists, 6 rebounds. She was something like 17 of 22 from the floor or something ridiculous like that, 6 of 7 or 6 of 8 three-pointers. She was amazing out there. She showed everything in her repertoire. So really good. Got to catch up with her. Got her to sign both those jerseys. I've got the Townsville Fire and the Sydney Flames one, which is pretty cool. And look, as we know, especially I've had a bit to do with her, and she's such a amazing player and even better person. So she came over and had a chat with my daughter, and she was so nice and engaging and stuff. And she knew that I was busy with the commentary, and she said, "Oh, look, I'll come over at halftime in the men's game and sign your jersey." So I just obviously wished her all the best. She's actually in Japan now for this Opals tournament. She left on Monday for that, and I really hope she makes the Opals Olympic team. Woods. I think it's going to be a close call there. I made a joke with her, how many Laurens are they allowed in that lineup? Because we know there's Lauren Scherf, Lauren Jackson, and Lauren Nicholson. So maybe it's only a 2 Lauren rule. I'm not sure about that. So, but look, she's in the squad. I think it's down to 25, and they're obviously going to take 12. So It's probably a 50-50 chance she makes it. I hope just with her shooting ability and definitely a defensive ability as well, that gets her across the line. But either way, I continue to root for her. And, as I mentioned 100 times now, definitely my favourite player to watch. And it was great to see her up close. What do you think of the Hills men's game? Because you saw, obviously Hills, with guys like Chris Bryan and Ish Sanders there, they've got some pretty good players on that team now, right?
Really good. And I mean, those imports played with a lot of heart. There's a lot
playing against last season's champs in Sutherland, they knocked them off pretty easily. Yeah.
And, they're just well coached, great unit, entertainment as well. You see this year, the brand of basketball the guys are playing this year is an entertaining one. So, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, I know you're coming again this week. I know the bar's going to be open, so I'm sure you're looking forward to that at the game. But look, potentially a chance to see the GOAT again. I got to see her 2 years ago and call a game in Lauren Jackson. But that Albury team's got players like Ashley Hannon. They've got Pubic. They've also got Unique Thompson, who literally gets about 20 rebounds a half, so she'll be exciting to watch. And then the men's team, we get to see, friend of the podcast in Sean Montague, who we had on last season, playing for Albury now. And they've also got William Davo Hickeywoods, who's nearly averaging a triple-double. He's, I'd say, probably in the box seat to win the MVP of the NBL1 East. So it'd be great to see him. Plus, I've got guys like Lachlan Cummings, who played, with the Wildcats back in the day. And then they've also got another import as well. So it's going to be two really good games there. The Albury women's team is 15-0. So I believe they're one of the only undefeated teams in all of the NBL1 competitions throughout Australia. And they're a big chance to potentially go through the season undefeated, I think, depending on lineups and injuries and stuff there. So, no, it was good to see you out there, Woods. Looking forward to do it all again. I've actually got the Hills Albury Saturday night, and then I'll be back there about 10 o'clock on Sunday morning for Hills against Bankstown. So it's going to be a busy weekend. The throat might be a bit sore after calling those games. But certainly looking forward to it.
So is that a single game on the Sunday and a double header?
No, so double on both games. So,
wow.
Yeah, so double. So, you think for the girls. So the girls' game will finish around 7 or 7:30 on Saturday night. They're back playing at 11 a.m. on Sunday. So it's not a big turnaround time there. And for Albury, they're doing a road trip as well. So they play Saturday night against Hills, and they've got a Sunday lunchtime game at Sutherland as well. So pretty good effort there. It's a lot more of a condensed schedule there. So I think we've only got about 4 more rounds, but I think Hills still have 7 more games. So they've nearly got doubles in every game. So
looking forward to it.
Get out and support the NBL1. I say it every time. You just mentioned, Woods, how good the quality is. I've been watching a little bit of NBL1 South, and I get a chance as well. I like some of the teams, and of course the NBL1 West. With a few of the Wildcats guys over there as well. So great to see. So all right, well, we'll finish the show with classic packs. I've got no idea who you got this week, but
you're going.
Yeah, no, I was going to say.
I've got the 2016 Panini. All right.
Ooh, 2016.
And there's 35
cards. How long we got?
So I'll only do I'll break this one into 4 weeks. We'll do 8 a week for 4
35 card pack. Wow.
Yeah, and I found it in the bottom somewhere. I didn't even know I had it. 2016
What do they call a pack that size? Has it got a special name? Is it?
No, it just says best value, 35 card pack.
It's amazing. And we were complaining about that pack we had last week. It was 6 cards or something, right? Yeah. So, wow, 35 cards. So, yeah, no idea what to expect. What do you say, 2015, 16?
16, 17. So
16, 17.
On the front, it's got a picture of KD.
Okay. And he's wearing a backpack?
Warriors jersey.
No backpack?
No backpack. And then on the...
Well, the best thing about cards of this vintage Woods, definitely no Danny Manning, so that's always a plus, or John Concac, so I'm not going to be disappointed with those guys. But hopefully you pull out maybe a superstar or two, and you definitely pull out a Hawk in the...
Okay, we've got 8 here, all right. Mm-hmm. And it's got Kyrie Irving wearing a Cavs jersey on the front, by the way.
Okay,
so,
right.
Okay,
right.
This short, diminutive guard started off his career buried at the end of the Mavericks bench. After trying a few different teams, he ended up back on the Mavericks.
JJ Barea?
Yes,
yeah,
JJ Barea.
Who are the other teams he played for? I can't really picture him in other
Minnesota.
Now. Minnesota, that's right. Yeah.
Was there anyone else? I think it might have just been...
Might have been just him. He's still very much beloved in Dallas as well, isn't he, JJ Barea? You talk about someone marrying like Miss Universe or Miss Worlds or whatever. I encourage anyone to Google JJ Barea wife. Wow, that's all I can say. Yeah.
This man started his career at Melbourne United. Soon after their expansion, after they changed their name from the Tigers to United, he then became a journeyman, playing for many teams. I think he might have had a 45, 50-point game, maybe a late 40s game. Just an this is an irrational confidence guy, all right? He's played for Washington, Cleveland, journeyman. He's just had a lot of 10-day contracts and picked up at the end of the season.
Jordan McRae?
McCrazy.
Wow,
He's had a 40-something point game, hasn't he?
Yeah, he could definitely fill it up with me sort of thing. He just had the one season, didn't he, in the NBL? Yeah. No, he was decent. I think he was on a Hawks roster as well at some stage, maybe.
Yes, he might have been, Okay, this guy's dad was a Boston Celtics legend, and you love him. You loved him with the Charlotte Bobcats. You love this guy's game. He's moved.
Bit of Gerald Henderson. Mate, I've been teasing it. When am I going to pull out my Gerald Henderson Bobcats jersey? Right, it's got to be something we do in the off season. I'll pull that one out. Right?
Love Gerald Henderson.
Hey, how old's he now, Woods? Got the date of birth on that?
Yeah, 87. So he'd be 4 years younger than me, which means he's 36 now.
Looks like he's been out of the game for a while now, right? Which is strange because he had some good moments, didn't he? So
especially at Charlotte, right?
Yeah, 100%.
His dad was on this legendary Celtics teams, right? Henderson steals the ball.
I was about to say, don't make me do the croaky voice. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
That was his dad, right?
Yeah, believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Talking about short, diminutive guards, this guy was a Boston Celtics legend, right? The last pick in the second round of the NBA draft. One of your all-time favorites. Says he could be MVP in the NBL. I'm talking about who?
Last pick for in the draft by Boston.
The last pick in the draft by Sacramento.
Okay.
The 60th pick in the NBA draft.
Oh, IT.
Isaiah Thomas.
Thomas, right. Show us the back of those cards where there, Woods, as well. Okay, a bit plain on top. Yeah, definitely. That's a nice card to get.
Bit of nice information.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. You recently spoke about a jersey you got, Bobby Portis. What jersey was it?
Yep, Bobby Portis City Edition jersey. I was speaking about that offline, I think, wasn't I? Oh, no, did I say that?
No, you said it online at the start of your new order just arrived.
Yep, okay.
This man will not be sending Bobby Portis a postcard anytime soon.
Nikola Mirotic. Yeah, well, I'm surprised that beard didn't protect him from that shot that Bobby Portis got on him. So he was a good player, wasn't he? So I know he's still going strong over in Europe at the moment, but his career after getting punched, and did he end up in hospital after that punch?
Yeah, he did.
Wow. I mean, imagine saying something to Bobby Portis and seeing those crazy eyes just do what he does and then sort of getting slugged by him. So yeah, that was a big moment there.
Okay, I've got a clue for you on this one. This player played for Memphis and Philly. He was a Washington Husky, left-hander for sure from memory. What else can I say? He's played overseas, all over the world, in Europe since. Point guard, 25th overall pick in the 2012 NBA draft.
He played for Memphis and Philly.
Yeah.
What jersey number?
Number 1.
Should this one come to me straight away? Because it's not jumping
out. All right. Tony Roten.
Okay. Murder She Roten.
Yeah.
Nice. So he was on the tanking teams, wasn't he, for Philly?
Yeah, he was.
He was decent, wasn't he? How old's he now? Because he's got to still probably be, what, early 30s?
1993, so he'd be 10 years. He'd be 30.
31, yeah.
Yeah, 31.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, the legend, the Boston Celtics legend, who was recently traded. We just spoke about him.
Oh, Marcus Smart. Nice accent. I wonder how he's feeling about the win. I'm sure he'd be happy for the boys there, but yeah, it's
he'd be very happy, but yeah, it's hard, man.
I wonder how it's going in Boston at the moment as well. There'd be a lot of sore heads. I know they were pretty good, that home crowd, I thought, but they would have definitely gone out and caused a ruckus last night, wouldn't they? Which would have been a Monday night in downtown Boston. Yep.
Oh, for sure. And finally, plays for the Portland Trail Blazers now. This is his Philadelphia card. He's from a famous family. His uncle played for the Sydney Kings. Gets paid quite a lot at Portland.
Does get paid a lot. Jeremy Grant.
Yep, Jeremy Grant.
Solid player, right? I think maybe he doesn't quite live up to his contract there, but yeah, he's bounced around a bit, isn't he? Philadelphia, Detroit, now he obviously got that big contract in, and now Portland. So, yeah, definitely a solid player, that's for sure. So, that was interesting. Yeah, good sort of looking back at different eras there and sort of, getting a Tony Roten. I haven't thought of that name for quite a while. And getting a few favourites as well.
Gerald Henderson.
Yeah, give us a quick recap. Who are the eight players?
Okay, so we've got, my bad. We got Jeremy Grant, Marcus Smart, Tony Roten, Nikola Mirotic, Isaiah Thomas, Gerald Henderson, Jordan McRae, and JJ Barea.
Nice. And a bit of a link to NBL, like you said, with IT talking about it and Jordan McRae playing.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Yeah. That was fun. Well, yeah, pack of what, 35?
5. So we'll keep this for the next few weeks, right?
I like it. Good stuff. Well, appreciate that, Woods. Well, that sort of brings us to the end of the show. Sad that the NBA season's finishing, but as I mentioned, we've got a lot more to talk about. A lot of draft stuff next week. We'll certainly keep everyone informed about the free agency and maybe some team needs and things like that. I'm sure we'll see some action at the draft, Woods. Trades, different sort of things like that happening. No idea what the Hawks are going to do. I feel like we're not going to know until actually Adam Silver goes up on stage, but we'll be watching that with interest. But yeah, in terms of the show, as I mentioned at the start, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We can be followed on X at Throwback Hoops, on Instagram, throwback.hoops, and our email address, throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. Give us some Patreon details there, Woods.
Yeah, Patreon is it's nice if someone can pledge their support to us. We don't demand it, but there's some costs associated with maintaining the podcast. So if you'd like to, we thank you. Just jump on Patreon, look for Throwback Hoops, and pledge your support.
And if anyone wants to provide any feedback on Woody's beanie, you're happy to do that. So that's all good. So I like it. It's giving the tick for me sort of thing. And as I said, it is getting quite cold in Sydney, so maybe I need to get a Hawks beanie.
Did you know I had this?
I didn't know you've had it. The funny thing is I've probably got about 3 or 4 Hawks beanies. I don't think I've ever worn them. So I've got beanies, but I don't wear them for some strange reason.
I've never seen you wear one in your life.
No, I don't think I have. I've actually got one of those old school, like Naughty by Nature style West Coast Eagles ones that sticks up like that. Remember KG used to wear for Naughty by Nature? But anyway, nice. Well, look, it's been fun, Woods. Any final thoughts? Pretty lackluster finals, but certainly the right result, I think, right?
Yeah, definitely the right result. And, we got the draft coming up, the NBL season on the horizon. So exciting times ahead, despite there being a little bit of a lull in the basketball world. Yeah.
Nice stuff. I'm looking forward to see you on Saturday night at the Hills versus Albury game. We'll get to go and see Lauren Jackson. I'm bringing my Lauren Jackson Opals jersey and I'm going to get her to sign that.
Man.
So got the photo with her last time. I'll get the jersey signed this time.
For sure.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. It's a big peace out from the Throwback Hoops crew.
Bye, everyone.